just like that, it's time for our weekly roundup of all the things Lady just ain't gonna do this week. All right, y'all. So I'm not really sure where this goes in the listicle, but this week, former Secretary of State Madeleine Albright died. She died of cancer. And her legacy is indeed complicated. Albright was a champion for Clintonian, meaning of the Clinton administration, foreign policy, which can be boiled down to save the children unless it actually means giving a fuck about the children, or taking any risks that might extend the United States into, dare I say, integrity? Here's what I mean by that. U.S. foreign policy has always been about the United States and the United States first. And when it comes to intervening in conflict where, say, people are being slaughtered and massacred and raped and pillaged, the U.S. is always going to ask, well, what's in it for me? Lots of people have lots of things to say about Albright. And in doing some research for this illustrious podcast, one thing is clear. She was an accomplished woman who went through some things, including fleeing Nazis twice. She's written 1.5 million books about foreign policy, and according to reports, she really prided herself on making foreign policy accessible to the people. She saw herself as favoring diplomacy and pushed for intervention in dynamics in other countries that were abysmal. With that being said, Lady has always been a huge critic of polishing up someone's image when they die, just because we have superstitions as a culture about speaking ill of the dead. Telling the truth about someone's legacy is not the same as speaking ill of them. And if what they did when they were alive was inhumane, then speaking on that doesn't make you inhumane by osmosis. After all, is it not important to highlight that on her watch, nearly 500,000 Iraqi children died as a result of the United States sanctions imposed on Iraq when Iraq invaded Kuwait? And that when she was asked about it in an interview on CBS 60 Minutes in 1996, Albright responded, "I think that is a very hard choice, but the price is worth it." Is it not important to highlight that 1 million Rwandans were slaughtered on her watch as chief delegate to the United Nations, that the United States refused to intervene, and that she tried to pass the buck to someone else when she had decision-making power and influence? She called it her biggest regret in life, and so we should see it as such too. Yes, she was the first woman to be the Secretary of State, and yes, firsts are important. But what does it mean when the first commits horrible atrocities on our behalf? As usual, Lady is not an absolutist, but a realist. Legacies are complicated, especially when you play a role in overseeing and implementing empire, and especially when that empire is the most powerful in the world. Other things on the list of things that Lady just ain't gonna do this week. Ginni, oh Ginni, you in danger, girl. Now, in what I think is the most bizarre news this week, the wife of Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas, the one we do not claim, and Black people basically claim every fucking buddy for real. Anyway, this hoe has been exposed in some text messages with White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows, basically trying to overturn the 2020 election. Now, sure, she's the wife and not the justice, but lo and behold, Justice Thomas is on record dissenting when the Supreme Court struck down election challenges filed by the Orange Menace and his people, saying that it was baffling and inexplicable that the justices wouldn't hear the cases because the court should provide guidance for future elections. Now, first off, nigga, this is why we don't fuck with you. Here's the guidance right here. This here United States of America has a very clear process by which we elect a president. And Yo Massa tried to rally a bunch of conspiracy theory-loving white people, including your wife, to overturn the election and essentially overthrow the government, of which you are a part. The fuck? The logic, or rather lack thereof, is what's baffling here. But again, we expect this from old Clarence. But Ginni girl, girl, you are the spouse of a Supreme Court justice. The fuck you doing having these dumbass conversations by text message anyway? You want to be on some conspiracy theory shit, that's your prerogative. But girl, you just threw your man under the bus because ain't nobody nowhere actually believes that y'all don't talk about this shit. I never, ever, ever want to think about what happens in y'all bedroom, but I do know that over dinner, breakfast, and lunch, y'all talking about this crazy shit. I'm gonna be messy here for a minute too. That's a lot of text messages y'all was exchanging. I want to see timestamps. What is the former White House chief of staff doing texting with somebody's partner? She ain't got no role in the government. There was 21 text messages sent to Mark Meadows by her, and there was 8 messages sent by him to her. And some shit was missing according to reports, so anywho, we'll keep you updated as this unfolds. So here's what we want more of this week, though. And just like that is renewed for season 2. I know. Some of you may be groaning like, no, we don't need a season 2, but au contraire, mon frère, we definitely do. I need to see Miranda take this damn nosedive into oblivion when she moves to LA to be with Che. And Che is either going to give us 90s lesbian butch and recommend they adopt a kid, and probably of a different race, or what is more likely is that Che finna feel smothered and move on. I need to see Carrie and that fine-ass producer man have a beautiful and tumultuous romance. I don't really know what I need from Charlotte, but I also need one of the black characters to actually have a storyline. And I guess the one we're working with right now with the professor is okay. It'll do, as long as they give it some girth. Anywho, yay for season 2. We love to see it. Now, if only we could get a season 2 of Love is Blind without the weird, violent misogyny behind the scenes, but I digress. Other things that Lady loves this week, well, it's really beginning to look like we gonna see the first Black woman ever to serve on the Supreme Court in history. And you know what? Lady loves. Our sister Kentanji has endured some of the dumbest shit possible for the majority of this illustrious week. And let me tell you something. She is every Black woman navigating a world of mediocre white folk who mad as fuck that she's smarter than them, more qualified than them, and has no time whatsoever for the fantasy world that these white folk love to live in. And even though Cory Booker be tap dancing on my last nerve a lot of the time with how corny he can be, especially with this shit where he be like, oh, Ted Cruz is my friend. Can we digress for a second? By the way, no, sir. He's not your friend. Just because a motherfucker will talk crazy to you and you've adapted to not responding doesn't mean he's a good person, nor does it mean he wouldn't throw your black ass under the bus the minute he gets the chance. But thank you for letting me digress. Despite all that delusional nonsense, I gotta give it up for Cory this week. Real talk, he helped our sis stay the course. He brought some oxygen back into the room, connected with her like, hold on, sis, we headed to the promised land. Now, we have all needed that person at one time or another, and truth be told, because I'm fair, yes, I am. One time, Van Jones did that for me when Eleanor Holmes Norton decided to come for me on a panel for absolutely no reason on some, your movement ain't shit, our movement was the real deal. And I will say, Van Jones, to his credit, he checked her, and he gave me some oxygen in only the way he could. Now, you know when you can't be talking crazy to OGs because they be talking crazy to you and you just got to hold your breath because the spirit of the ancestors is like, ho, watch your mouth and respect your elders. Well, only a mid-G could come and collect her, and he knew that, and he did it. So I saw the same in Cory this week, and I knew that that single tear that fell from her eyes, I felt that shit in my soul. So shout out to Cory and shout out to our sister, who will more than likely be confirmed the first week of April. We love it. We love to fucking see it. And now it is time for, yes, you guessed it, Ladies' Love Notes. Whew. Well, my loves, I have been in the thick of it all. I've been trying to stay busy while also being intentional about how to unbreak my own heart. I know. In last week's Love Notes, we talked about being in between and finding peace in the pain. This week, Lady wants to do a little rumination on the International Players Anthem. What do you do when someone doesn't choose you? Ooh, you felt that? Yeah. So I've been telling y'all there's someone I really like who I have stepped away from recently. And if we're being fully 100, he stepped away from me first, but in that way of someone who's like pretty terrified of intimacy and then also really longs for it. I know, I have a lot of emotional capacity. I've been working on it for a long time. Plus, I was in a 17-year-long relationship, so I would like to think I know a little bit of something about how communication and connecting and vulnerability works. Even though it can be hard for me too, I'm in a constant practice. So for a while, I thought perhaps I would just ride this one out. After all, I really like this man. And I'm just a year out of the most significant relationship in my life, so there is literally no rush to jump into something else again. But now I'm realizing that actually there was something missing for me, and it still is deeply unsatisfying. Even though this man was really pushing me at first, right, to like lock it down, and even more recently was talking some shit about how he wants to marry me, which, child, I'm not gonna say never, but I'm not even at a point where I want to think about getting married again. But yeah, even though he is hella extra, you know what he isn't? Consistent or clear enough to choose me. I realized it after this last round of nonsense. I lost the desire to talk it out, to be patient, to be the bedrock. I already know I can do that, and so does he. But I want someone who can do that for me too. I want someone who can show up and keep showing up because they've chosen me. And I don't mean on some boyfriend-girlfriend shit. I mean on some, I want this person in my life, and I'm going to show them that every day type shit. One of my favorite songs in life is International Players Anthem by UGK. It's a song about what happens when you finally decide to stand still for a while. I mean, the brothers talk about laying down his arms and closing down his player's card. His friends are like, okay, my G, but keep your heart. And he's like, yo, I'm in this thing, though. I texted all my sometimes, and I told them I had a forever. Now, the song is tight, but also it has a message. We trying to get chose. Every single one of us longs for that. And even though I'm not trying to jump into no relationship right now, the inconsistency and the just all over the placedness from this man is telling me all the things that aren't being said. And as much as I hate to admit it, all of the things I need to know. You can want me, need me, love me, and even want to marry me and lock it down. But if you're not choosing me, what are we doing really? I mean, I have found myself making excuses for this man he's not even making for himself. Oh, he's scared. Oh, he's insecure. Oh, he's had a lot of things happen to him in his life that impacts his ability to trust. I'm like psychoanalyzing this nigga, and I'm finding myself understanding this man and empathizing with this man and giving this man room and giving. And this man is taking. Yes, he's scared. Yes, he has insecurities, and I get it. Yes, he's had a lot of things happen to him in his life that impacts his ability to trust. And so am I, and so have I. And I keep showing up and choosing him. But unless and until I get chose, all of those things can be true and not a reason to perform Herculean gymnastics for him to choose me. My gifts are glorious and they're precious. I am a catch, my friends. I really do mean that. And in fact, I pride myself on it. I'm pretty dope. I know he knows that. And in fact, I think it's why he keeps trying to keep me close, even though he's not really bringing much to the table. Maybe he's thinking when life calms down a little, then I'll choose her. But you know something? That's just not how life works. At some point, somebody gonna slide through on some Patrick Swayze shit talking about nobody, and I mean nobody, puts baby in a corner. And what the fuck I'm gonna look like being like, oh, but I'm in a corner because he's scared. Everybody knows the feeling of waiting to be chosen for a team, and it sucks. Waiting to be chosen for a team by a man who is used to being a solo rider sucks even more. And so even though I know this sounds cheesy as fuck, I'm choosing me. I actually like my own company. And even though I am really into this man, really into him, I also am really into being someone's choice and not theirs sometimes or for the time being. So, dear ones, if you also trying to get chose, choose you first. The rest will surely follow.